Hello everyone and welcome. In this video we are going to be demonstrating the differences between two winter tires, one with studs and one without. So here's what happened. Subaru was kind enough to invite me to drive their STI and BRZ on a frozen lake in Wisconsin, and happily I accepted. I'm not one to say no to sliding on ice. But rather than just some glamorous shots of me pretending that I know what I'm doing in cold temperatures, I thought it'd be really neat to collect some data and see if we could learn some differences between studded and studless winter tires. We'll be running acceleration runs, braking runs, and even a small timed course to learn the traction differences between the tires. So for the purposes of this video, all of the demonstrations will be using two identical Subaru STIs. Both of these STIs are completely stock with the exception of wheels and tires, and they're both using the exact same wheels. So the only difference between them is one has an off-road use only studded winter tire and the other has a street legal studless winter tire. You can think of this comparison a lot like comparing a high-performance summer tire to a dedicated track tire, just on the opposite end of the temperature spectrum. Our studded tire is a Lappi Winter Tire, 225mm wide, a 40% aspect ratio sidewall, and mounted on 18-inch method race wheels. This tire has 414 studs per tire. The studs have a full length of 12.5mm, but the effective length is 4mm, the distance that sticks out past the rubber of the tire. These are extremely aggressive studded tires. On a road car, the studs could protrude from the rubber less than half as much, and road tires might have between 130 to 250 studs per tire rather than over 400. Having more longer studs means even better traction on ice. And for our studless tire, we're running Bridgestone Blizzak WS90 tires in the exact same size, 225/40 R18, as the studded tire. I specifically chose these as they are one of today's best performing studless winter tires. The WS90 is the successor to the WS80 tire, one of Tire Rac's highest rated winter tires, so it should be able to perform even better. I've personally ran WS80 tires through many winters, and in my experience it has provided excellent traction, much like Continental's Viking Contact 7, Michelin's Ice-X, or Nokian options. So ultimately, we've got a very good studded tire versus a very good studless tire. The studless tire gets its grip from a clever compound that remains flexible in very cold conditions, has deep tread depth for capturing snow. You might be surprised to learn that snow-on-snow traction is actually pretty decent, so these treads hold snow to improve traction. And also through the use of sipes, the small slotted zigzags in the tread block, which create an additional biting edge to help the tire find grip on slippery surfaces. The studded tire will use many similar principles, but add on top of it metal studs to punch into the ice and ideally provide additional traction. So let's get right into it. For the purposes of consistency, yours truly won't be doing any of the driving. That task will be handled by none other than Patrick Sandell, an accomplished rally driver from Sweden who currently drives for Subaru's Rally Team USA in the number 18 WRX STI. I'll be sitting in the passenger seat providing useless advice and jotting down any data collected. We'll be using a V-Box to record information, and since all of this is happening on a frozen lake, there's great GPS reception as there aren't many tall obstacles around. Our first test is braking from 30 miles per hour or about 50 kilometers per hour down to 0. As all of this testing is on a frozen lake, the deceleration testing will be occurring on nearly pure ice without much snow on the surface, putting grip at a very near minimum for any tire. Each run will occur in the same spot as much as is possible, with the braking engaged at about 35 miles per hour and data recorded from 30 miles per hour down to 0. All of the braking will be at full ABS, meaning the computer is doing most of the work, providing our best stopping distance and consistent results. First up are the studless tires, and we'll do 3 runs in each test to ensure we have consistent results. So here we go. Our first run saw a 30 mile per hour down to 0 braking distance of 179 feet. The average over 3 separate runs was 182 feet. As a comparison, today's best braking cars are capable of coming to a stop from 30 miles per hour in less than 30 feet on dry pavement. We're at 6 times that distance. But remember, we're on flat, slick ice. A summer tire in these conditions would continue braking well past 180 feet. And it's also important to distinguish between ice and snow braking. On a separate run, we started braking later, allowing for the car to get on just a little bit of snow towards the end of the braking zone, and stopping distance improved significantly to 164 feet, with just a small amount of snow on the surface. So how did the studded tires fare? Quite impressive, actually. The average from 3 30-0 runs was 92 feet, with the best run at 87 feet. Overall, it was capable of stopping in about half the distance. I asked Patrick, the rally driver, for his thoughts. One of the points he wanted to make very clear was that while studs make an incredible difference while driving on ice, the traction difference on snow is a smaller gap. Having the studs able to drive into the hard, icy surface is a lot more beneficial than if they're cutting into fluffy snow. And another note worth mentioning, these studless tires had approximately 20 miles of break-in driving put on them. This helps to remove any of the tire mold release residue that might be still on the tire. That said, some companies will claim it can take up to 500 miles for a tire to be fully broken in, so the studless tires could see a slight improvement in results over time. So, how did our tires fare in acceleration testing? This is a bit more challenging of a demonstration to remain consistent on, so we came up with a plan on how to keep results as close as possible. First, we decided on a no-slip launch. Patrick would do his best to ease onto the throttle for minimum tire slip, while I would call out the vehicle speed to him. Once we'd reached 10 miles per hour, I'd let him know, at which point he'd shift to second gear and finish the run up to 30 miles per hour. Our studless tire acceleration runs yielded average results of hitting 30 miles per hour in 9.3 seconds. This is actually a pretty decent number, considering our average braking time from 30 miles per hour was 8.6 seconds. The best run on studless tires was just under 9 seconds. Running the exact same style with the studded tires, shift at 10 miles per hour and remain in second past 30, our studded tires were able to accelerate on average in just 4.8 seconds, an improvement versus studless of 4.5 seconds. The results were pretty consistent, with the fastest studded run hitting 30 in 4.7 seconds. Now, since these tires had studs, something I couldn't help but wonder was if this was really the fastest way to 30 miles per hour, or if an aggressive start could yield better times. So now, instead of trying to prevent wheel slip became the goal. An aggressive throttle application, dumping the clutch, and seeing just how fast the 0 to 30 time can get. Turns out, with studs, this made a significant difference. Our average of 3 runs saw a 0 to 30 time of 4.2 seconds, and our best time was under 4 seconds. This method was over half a second faster than a controlled, minimal slip launch. We're not limited by static friction since the tire studs dig into the surface of the ice, increasing the thrust forward. How cool! But now, in the name of science, of course, we had to try the same method with the studless tires. Much to our surprise, it actually worked really well. The average acceleration time dropped from 9.3 seconds down to 7.4 seconds, with the best run at 6.8. It seems even without studs, there's enough digging from the studless tires into the surface that the tire slip improved the overall force at the ground. Really impressive to see, as it goes against what I intuitively expected to happen. So overall, our best studded time was 4 seconds versus our best studless time of 6.8 seconds, a difference of 2.8 seconds. So now we get to our final demonstration, which ties it all together and adds the additional element of lateral grip, the track test. This is a small, low-speed, windy course that's about 1/3 of a mile or a little over half a kilometer. Again, Patrick will be doing all of the driving, 3 laps with each tire set, and I'll once again be in the passenger seat. The final displayed lap times will come directly from counting camera frames. First up, we'll watch his best lap on the studless tires. Now, watching this, I want to make sure it's clear why it appears so slow and not all that flashy. The fastest way around an ice course actually looks quite slow. There's not much sliding, not much drifting, minimal steering inputs, and you're simply trying to find the straightest path from one corner to the next, just like you would on a regular track. The challenge, of course, is that traction is so low. So while it may not look all that impressive visually, Patrick's driving was actually super precise, utilizing left foot braking to ensure the front end has proper traction, and occasionally light feedback to the handbrake to help rotate the car if the front end isn't pointing correctly. His first go around on the studless tire was his fastest lap, at 59.6 seconds from start to finish, with an average over 3 runs of 60.2 seconds. Next up, the studded tires. Immediately, you'll notice it gets off the line quicker. One of the interesting things about driving on ice is that your inputs are delayed, so you're anticipating what's coming up ahead and acting in advance. Turning the wheel, applying throttle, there's a lag before the car actually does what you want it to do, so you have to anticipate what's coming up ahead the whole time and have the car wheels pointed in the correct direction accordingly. As you can see, the studded tires are helping significantly with speed, especially in icy patches. However, in the snowy portions of the track, the speed differential is less significant. His top speed on the studless tires was 33 miles per hour, while on the studded tires he was able to hit 38 miles per hour, 5 miles per hour faster. His fastest lap was 52.2 seconds, with an average time of 52.4 seconds. On average, he was nearly 8 seconds faster per lap with the studded tires. The 8-second gap is quite significant, but it also shows when the surface has a bit of snow on it, the advantage is reduced versus pure ice. For example, the studless tire took nearly an additional 100% extra stopping distance to brake from 30 to 0, however they were only about 15% slower on the track demonstration. Now after Patrick's laps, I couldn't help but wonder how much faster he is than, say, someone without a racing history. Someone who spends much of their time debating the theoretical and doodling on a whiteboard. Someone who got gray hair too early and yet still wonders if facial hair will ever arrive. Yes, with Patrick riding shotgun, I shot out in attempts to gain glory for engineers around the world. Now, mind you, before we witness the result, I'm ready to dish out excuses. First off, I had never driven this course in this car. We're watching my second run on it out of the 2 that I ran total. My biggest fault was not anticipating what lies ahead better, and instead reacting too late with my inputs. This kept my top speeds down a bit, and Patrick had better exit points during his lap. But mostly, I feared being slower with studs than Patrick without studs. That'd be embarrassing. Much to my delight, I crossed the finish line in 55.2 seconds. This was exactly 3 seconds shy of Patrick's best time, but more importantly to my fragile ego, 5 seconds faster than his average studless tire time. Thank goodness. So, what did we learn? Well, ultimately, studded tires can make a significant improvement in winter traction conditions. But at the same point, I was really impressed with how well the studless tires did on the course. For snow driving, I'm going to happily continue to use studless winter tires on my road-going cars, and as usual, simply maintain a safe distance from the car ahead of me, allowing for extra time to stop in the event of emergencies. And maybe just let the tail slide out a little bit more thanks to this exceptional experience with Subaru. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below.